Welcome to Everything Real in Fredericksburg. From local government to economic development and real estate. If it's happening in Fredericksburg, Texas, we talk about it. Now your host, Leanne Bailey.
Hey, hi y'all. Welcome to Everything Real in Fredericksburg. I'm Leanne Bailey. Today is extra special. We have our first on-location podcast shoot today out in Mountain Home. We're about 40 miles west of Fredericksburg. We're out here at Wildlife Ranch Solutions. We're going to be interviewing Joe Bailey and Morgan Tyler. Some great guys are going to talk a little bit about exotics and how, as a landowner, you can incorporate exotic ranching into your portfolio. So I'm really excited. Y'all come on into the lodge and we'll hook up with Joe and Morgan. Come on in. Morgan Tyler, hey, how are you?
Great, how are you?
I'm good. Well, here we are out in Mountain Home. I was telling the folks at the beginning, we're about 40 miles west of Fredericksburg, out on this beautiful, gorgeous ranch. It rained this morning.
Yeah, it's been an amazing morning going around looking at all the animals, and everything's fresh and happy for the rains.
Yeah. So you and I go a long ways back. We go, a short time. Short time back.
Yeah, it was just,
not too far back when we both were at School of Tech.
Mm-hmm.
And then more recently, we're both in real estate and Texas land brokers and reconnected. And you reached out to me, and I've been so excited to hear about your new endeavor with Wildlife Ranch Solutions. And so I had never even thought what this would be like when we came out. This is our first on-site location recording for my podcast, and I'm so glad to be here. So tell me a little bit about what's going on. What's this endeavor, and what's Wildlife Ranch Solutions?
Yeah, so as you know, I've been involved in real estate for a few years, and I've had some friends that have gone to work for the parent company, Wildlife Partners, and just reached out to them and got to know a little bit more about Wildlife Partners, and then started learning about what Wildlife Ranch Solutions does. And man, just met the guys, and it's just a great fit and very interesting to me in that I'm really able to use my education from tech with, my range management background, wildlife management to, make a career out of. It's been interesting to get back out on the land and learn more about an exciting sector of the wildlife business in this exotic world.
Sure. Well, as realtors, I think our the best foot forward we can put out there for our buyers and even our sellers is to know as much as we can about the land. And it's not the way it used to be when we were growing up, where everybody's just raising cattle and goats and sheep. Things are changing and evolving, especially as different conditions like drought put us into looking at different financial investments for our property. And I think I would say it's fair to say that maybe even the rancher landowners changing a little bit. So exotics are coming into play more and more.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Folks are starting to diversify, and us as agents, as we're able to educate some of our buyers and sellers on the benefits of raising some of these super exotic species, outside of your axis fallow black buck that you'll commonly see. When we're talking about exotics in the hill country, the super exotic business is really, really exciting and a great benefit to the landowners.
Yeah, I'm a little, not embarrassed, I would say, but overwhelmed this morning when we drove the ranch. I'm used to the old, when we were growing up, axis deer were exotic, and now they're normal, they're native.
Yeah, we needed flashcards.
And
I need them sometimes.
I was like, now what did you say again? What was that breed? I can't even begin to say all the animals.
Dom gazelle, scimitar horn, Skimsbach, Addicts. It's
incredible.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful, and they come from all over. And I would have had no idea that it was possible to raise these kind of animals in a healthy way. And we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but wanted to go and say it's not a hunting operation. It's not something you breed them to hunt. And so that really appeals to me too, because I love seeing these animals just grazing on the land. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I get the warm and fuzzy seeing these animals that, may not have a chance in their native environment.
Sure.
Different parts of the world, primarily a lot of African species. And, from a conservation standpoint, we're able to really help these animals out, and, the landowners see an economic benefit from it. And it's great for us as realtors to help our clients on the back end, because it's not just, for you and a lot of other brokers. It's not about just, hey, let's go to closing. It's after that closing that gets us a repeat business coming back to us.
Yeah. Well, we want to, as realtors, make friends, build relationships. but be a resource. Like, I'm not going to know everything, but I love being able to connect with the people
Right.
that know all the details. And that's what I like about today. So we'll connect with you and bring in Joe Bailey in a little bit and let him talk about a little bit more detail about the company.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you think we need to know as agents, maybe to help our buyers and sellers? Even our sellers. Maybe there's a ranch that's just not getting activity. Maybe they want to bring some animals in and some game and make it a little bit more worthy for the
Yeah,
buyer.
certainly. And that's where we can help with Wildlife Ranch Solutions is we can, do a consultation and, hey, you're overstocked or understocked, or maybe think about some different species or different management practices. So that's what's been so exciting to me about Wildlife Ranch Solutions is we're helping folks get more value out of their property.
Yeah, that's important. We like more value.
Hmm.
Well, anymore, you got to be competitive. Land used to go off the shelves pretty quick.
Right.
But now we have a different buyer. People are wanting more of a gentleman's ranch, but they still want to have income, or they want to be able to have some tax relief. And so we've got to, like you were saying earlier, diversify. And so I think that's important. So
Yep. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to get Joe in here in front of you. I've been here just a few months with Joe and kind of drinking out of the fire hydrant, but man, he is, he's the man that started this company, and he's really got a wealth of knowledge.
I almost have a taste of what you mean when you're saying drinking from a fire hydrant, because the tour this morning felt like that.
Yeah, it can be.
And I think I was just at the tip of the iceberg, so I can see what you mean. So I guess we'll bring in Joe Bailey with Wildlife Ranch Solutions, no kin to Leanne Bailey, but if I do call him Cousin Joe, it'll be just fine. So we'll bring Joe in and get him mic'd up and ask him some questions.
Right.
Morgan, thank you. And
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
look forward to seeing you down on the real estate trail and maybe on some land. coming
Absolutely.
forward.
It's so good seeing you.
You too.
Thanks. Glad to have
buddy.
you out here.
Yes, sir. So Joe Bailey, hey, welcome.
Hi there.
Thanks for coming on the show with us.
You're welcome.
And taking us for a tour this morning.
Yep.
I appreciate Morgan reaching out to me and knowing that I was so interested in helping our buyers and sellers learn a little bit more about what's out there in the world of real estate and land ownership. He gave a great introduction to you, but tell me who you are. What is Wildlife Ranch Solutions? How long have y'all been in business? Tell me the meat of this thing.
Okay, so I'm the president of Wildlife Ranch Solutions. I'm a part owner, and I grew up in the hill country. I haven't always worked around here. Life took kind of a different path, and I went here and I went there. Was oil and gas for quite a while. Met Brian Gilroy, who started Wildlife Partners, and he had this idea for a management support company for people that breed super exotics. The money's to the point to where we can't, you can't afford any death loss, really. So Wildlife Ranch Solutions stepped in to kind of fill a gap in the industry that was needed. And we are a full service management support company for breeders of super exotics. Everything from the business side to the startup, business plans, educating folks on the tax benefits of owning these animals through the delivery and the animal husbandry that's involved with a lot of these species. We offer all of it from start to finish, and we're there for our clients throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting business.
Yeah, it's incredible. I honestly had no idea this service was out there, and maybe it's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're kind of one of a kind, and I'm glad that you do this, because I've been on land. I have friends that have not super exotics, I would say, but some exotics,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd be willing to think that they probably don't know all of the benefits, or maybe some of the things you talked to me about this morning about the services that you guys offer, and how we probably don't know what we don't know, kind
That's
of
right.
thing. And so
Correct.
you're here to say, did you know you could do this or that, or some tax relief? Tell me maybe a broad view of maybe some of those services that you guys do offer.
Sure. So the need historically, ranching doesn't make money. The guys that can own ranches, the guys and girls that own ranches, they're mainly subsidized off their primary income. So our job is to come in, educate the landowner about the benefits, lowering your tax burden while buying an asset that not only is more than likely going to appreciate, but it's going to multiply because nature is nature,
Yeah.
and that's the way it works. So instead of buying, tractors and equipment for your farm or ranch for your 179, why are we not buying animals?
Yeah.
Because
And
they're going to
beautiful.
multiply, and tractors don't have babies. and I use that all the time with people, and it kind of resonates. But so I'll take a guy that has probably hunted all over the hill country, and he's seen these animals, and that's cool. And man, I have a ranch now, and I want to look at these animals too. So this is where the education part comes in. The common exotics is they're just that. They're common. They're all over the hill country. Maybe the dollar value, the return on investment is not there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk to him. Hey, there's some better species out here. They're going to generate money for the ranch. So not only are you going to be able to enjoy your property, you're going to be able to bring your kids and your wife and your family and friends, and you can look at beautiful animals, but you can feel a little bit better about it because you're not subsidizing it. You are cash flowing your ranch with these animals. And again, there is a lot to raising these animals. It's not like turning cows out. They eat certain things. Some of them, there's interbreeding threats there. So we advise on all of that. And again, the business side of it, the business plans that we build, they state your for-profit motive to the IRS. And as I mentioned earlier, the IRS has released statistics about ranches becoming or being given a hobby label, for the IRS.
Sure.
And so they said, if you have a business plan, it's beneficial to you as the ranch owner because it states your for-profit motive. When you start writing off, I think the deduction limit is 1.05 million a year. So that's a lot of animals and a lot of good animals. So that's it. I like to cash flow ranches. I want to see these animals thrive. Many of these animals don't exist in the wild anymore. And we've got just as many standing out here in front of the lodge as exist in Africa. We think 30 to 50, right? So
Sure. Well, and interject, there were a couple things that you said that appealed to me and made me think for a second, wow, I remember this or that. The first one was that the animals have a need. And I think sometimes we think deer just kind of survive out there.
Yeah.
And as we were touring the ranch this morning, we saw a lot of sheds and small
Animal
barns
shelters.
and shelters. And I remember the freeze in 2020
Yep.
showing a property and some deer or some axes had not survived. And
Right.
and all those are more native now. It was very sad. But I don't think people even thought
They don't
about
think about
needing
it.
that for deer. We
Right.
think about it for our deer or our horses and cow and sheep
Yep.
and all of that. And we blanket them, we put them away, we put red lights on them,
Yep.
heat lamps, but we don't think about
For these
the
animals.
wildlife.
The majority of these animals are from Africa.
Yeah.
Obviously, those kind of weather events, to my knowledge, don't happen in Africa.
don't,
So I think there's around 2,000 to 2,500 head of kudu antelope in Texas. They're a beautiful and wonderful animal to own. I know of 2 ranches that lost over 1% of the kudu in the state of Texas. And that's just 2 ranches. There's hundreds of ranches that raise kudu. And that kind of death loss is 100% avoidable. Some of these people, and one person in particular, didn't educate himself about the feeding habits of a kudu antelope.
Sure.
They don't eat off the ground. If you see a kudu eating off the ground, it's starving to death.
Wow.
So they're strict browsers, and they're very tall. If you've ever seen a kudu, and they walk around eating the leaves off of trees and shrubs.
Okay.
And he was just dumping corn on the ground. Again,
Not natural.
it's an unfortunate part of this business.
Yeah.
If you don't know, again, he didn't know what he didn't know. But that's our goal, is to avoid all of that kind of death
Sure.
loss.
Yeah.
We want people to make money with these animals. A kudu cow's $45,000. That's an enormous
Huge
amount of money for
economic
one
impact.
animal. Massive economic impact. And so there is a need in this industry for a management support company that covers all aspects of the business.
Yeah.
Again, from
Well,
the startup to the sale of offspring.
Yeah, the aspect of the business that you said a while ago too was a business plan.
Yep.
And you help provide that business plan.
Correct.
I remember being younger in college and stuff and having to come up with a business plan, and I didn't, you just want to.
Yeah.
And so you provide that support.
We do.
A landowner doesn't really have to do that. You're there to support them
Yep.
and create that plan for them. And I like that because as business owner, I mean, you buy land hoping to make money or, offset some tax relief. But when you have a business plan,
Yeah, this is the
where you're going.
roadmap.
Yeah.
This is what it's going to look like. It includes everything: stocking rates, nutritional information, soil and vegetation surveys. The part that most people like because they like to show it to their CPA is I include an ROI over a 6-year period for every species that we recommend or every species that the landowner is interested in putting out on the property.
Yeah.
So you can look at it and you can kind of forecast revenues. And I do it. It's all on a spreadsheet, and the formulas that I use are very fair, right? So I use an 80% productivity rate. So 8 out of 10 cows are going to have a baby.
Yeah.
And out of those 8 babies, 4 are going to be male and 4 are going to be female. So I'm not stacking the deck in anyone's favor. I keep it fair.
Sure.
Here's a likely scenario that you can expect on your financial side of your ranch.
Yeah. I bet you sleep a little better at night as a landowner when you've got this plan where you can kind of forecast. And business plans are just that. It's a forecast of profit
Yep.
and loss.
Yep.
But imagine, I think we kind of go out, not me, but sometimes as landowners, they're stalking game and really don't have a plan. And it's a little bit stressful because they're not cheap.
They're not cheap, and I see these things every week. Ranches are overstocked with commons, so not only are you feeding them everything they're eating, but you've got a bunch of animals that are not the best investment. They're they're going to do okay, but there's a huge difference between owning a scimitar oryx, which there are many, many of in Texas,
Yes.
as opposed to owning a sable. There are not a lot of them. As a matter of fact, we have a waiting list to purchase female sable.
Yeah.
So it's those little details and that industry knowledge that really make the difference between being able to cash flow your ranch and enjoy it even more than you already were, or not.
Yeah. I like this morning on the tour, I had asked you, I said, do you have to keep animals separate? Does this mix well with this? And you said, oh gosh, yes. And that really stuck with me because I might say, oh, I love that. Those 2 bucks are beautiful. I'll take a doe and a buck and a doe and a buck of this one. And, kind of here, give me 2, 2 and 2, and then stick them all in the same pasture. And you said, what did you say? That would be catastrophic.
That would be
And I was like,
catastrophic.
oh my gosh.
Yes. So let's talk about the animals that you're referring to was a sable and a roan. They're closely related, and you would never want to have them in the same pasture because they can crossbreed, and the offspring is if it lives is worth nothing. So you missed out on a breeding opportunity. A sable female wholesale price is $35,000. So I would give you $35,000 if you have that baby. The retail is $50,000. The retail on a roan is $90,000. Wow. So you've potentially missed out on a lot of money. Now, if you have 10 cows in your herd and they all miss a breeding opportunity because the roan bull beat up the sable bull, we have a major problem.
Yeah.
That is a huge problem that I strongly counsel clients on. And I don't have anybody that owns roan and sable or has them in the same pasture, but that's a scenario you would obviously want to avoid.
Right. I mean, that's just kind of that high level, this is what could happen. But
Yep.
but those are the examples to think about where
Sure.
I mean, if you're going to make the investment, we want to make sure we're putting the right animals in the right
and
pasture.
I'll give you a great example of poor management leading to a species that's not really worth a lot of money, or really, in my opinion, any money, is a Simbach, which is a cross between a scimitar horned oryx and a Gemsbach. And we're seeing them on the market.
Wow.
And it's just poor management.
Yeah.
And guys breeding animals for possibly cheaper hunting opportunities, which I'm not against. But I sure hate to see a Gemsbach breeding with a scimitar and creating a Simbach.
Absolutely.
It's not best practices, in my opinion.
When I was thinking too, while we're out there, we're talking about gestation periods. And I would imagine as a landowner, maybe you might want to get different breeds that have babies at different times of the year so that maybe now your profit is a little bit more, you're not having all your
Staggered.
profit staggered. Thank you. Because, in my mind, I think of the old gardening where my daddy would say, don't plant everything right at the same
That's
time.
right.
And so you want to spread
Winter
that out
crop,
through the
summer
year.
crop,
Yes.
spring crop.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Your dad was increasing the productivity of his garden,
Yes, sir.
which then increased his bounty that he got for the family, and that's awesome. Same thing. It's the same line of thinking. When we go out onto a ranch and we're talking species selection, if there's no trees on the place and the owner says, "Listen, I want kudu," I'm going to say, "There's no way in hell you can put kudu out here." Because there's no trees, there's nothing for them to eat. You're going to feed them everything. They're not going to be happy. They're going to have nowhere to hide. So let's look at something else. So we pride ourselves on putting the right animals in the right environments. You can drive down 41 right here and see examples of less than ideal management practices. Bare ground, nothing to eat. I get it. It happens, and kind of ranches get stuck in a rut where they end up having to go down that path. But we recommend species are going to utilize the land base in its entirety. So if you've got 50-50 browse and graze, I'm going to recommend 50% browsers, 50% grazers. So they're going to utilize the ranch in its entirety. So we're not going to be feeding a bunch of grazers year round. They're going to have enough grass to get them through the spring and summer, and the browsers are going to keep all the brush knocked back. So there is an art to it.
I never would have thought that deer, they're not all deer, but that they didn't all graze. Yeah, like I'm a hunter. I
That's
grew
right.
up, on the ranch. It
Sheep,
never
goats,
would have
cattle.
occurred to me that they didn't just eat off the ground.
Some species 100% do not eat off the ground.
Cannot wait to go home and tell my husband something that I love.
It's exciting. Yeah, it's an exciting
I
industry.
bet he didn't know.
Yeah.
So speaking of industry, we talk a little bit about the economic impact, and I don't think people, or maybe they do, but the numbers are surprising when you look at the economic impact of this industry in the United States. I almost said Texas, but it's outside of Texas.
It is.
Talk to me a little bit about those numbers. They're astonishing.
The numbers, they're large, and most people have no idea. So the economic impact of the exotic industry in Texas is worth about $5 billion a year. Nothing to scoff at. There's 5,500 ranches in Texas that raise exotics. Wildlife Partners and Wildlife Ranch Solutions, we do business with between 500 and 600 ranches purchasing animals. So we're doing business with 10% of the industry, and Wildlife Partners owns 4,500 animals, roughly, super exotics. So the industry is enormous. In the state of Texas alone, there are almost 30,000 properties, 500 acres and up, contiguous. Whenever I see statistics and numbers like that of 5,000 ranches raising exotics, that's everything from black buck to giraffe. And then I know that there's 30,000 pieces of land out there that people could be raising these animals on. They could lower their tax burden. They could get the enjoyment for their families of raising these animals. There's a massive amount of opportunity, and it's an education process, and that's why we're here.
Boy, I tell you what, there was nothing better than this morning. We got out here early. It just rained. The sun was coming up. For a second, I just stopped and just took it all in and just kind of, thank you, Lord.
It's beautiful.
It's a little overwhelming or emotional because I said, I could be out here every day doing this. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
These aren't hunted animals that you're dealing with. They're raised animals. They're not. You're not selling them to be hunted.
Right. So Wildlife Ranch Solutions and Wildlife Partners are not involved in the hunting industry. We're not anti-hunting. We all hunt. I hunt. Sure. Morgan hunts. He just got back from a great hunt. Just due to the nature of the business, we will sell excess males to hunting ranches at times. And I think that's just part of the business. And the hunting industry is probably worth more than the breeding industry in Texas at this point. Sure. But that's part of it. That's just not part of our business. So we strictly focus on the breeding of these animals. And so the Wildlife Partners model requires animals to fulfill breeding partnerships. And they will go out and buy these mature animals from ranches all over Texas and really the United States. There's a lot of great ranches in all across the U.S. that raise these animals. They'll buy these animals, put them into the partnership. They breed. They have babies. The babies are sold. Investors make money, and wash, rinse, repeat.
I will say, I think as most of us that are hunters are very big into wildlife conservation.
Sure.
We love the animals. You protect the animals, but you also know you have to call them out so that
that's right.
the strong survive.
Stocking rates.
But hunters are good conservationists,
Absolutely.
and that's what I think makes y'all a good business. because you have that care for the animal.
Absolutely. So there has to be a management aspect of this, or it won't work.
Yeah.
So that's where we come in, and we do a great job of it. I've got consultants that absolutely love what they do, and I don't blame them. They're out on some of the coolest ranches in the state weekly, and they get to interface with the ownership. They get to learn the business side, and they are wonderful when it comes to managing these animals and really going down the rabbit hole, doing the deep dive on the information that you need to know to raise these animals successfully and really run a successful business with them.
Yeah. Well, I think most people would say in any other business, you have a coach, you have a consultant,
Right.
you lean on the people that know their business,
Yep.
and you guys are giving that help, that support, the
Yep.
knowledge, the resources. So important. So I
And-
love that.
Yeah, it's great. And from a real estate perspective or a realtor's perspective, ranches get sold every day that have a pile of animals standing around on them. Are they taking that into account? No, not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Not really. So, you've got to give your animal herds a valuation. Again, 5,500 ranches in Texas raise exotics, and I don't know how many ranches were sold, but a lot.
Yes.
And a lot of them had exotics on them. So the gaining owner or the buyer may not like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. Well, we need to figure it out. We need to get out here. Let's get a management plan in place. And by the way, here are the benefits to raising these animals. And I've never had a negative interaction with someone after I explain the business.
Yeah.
I've had guys say, man, that market kind of scares me, but I've never had any of them say, that's a bad idea. They all say, this is a really good idea.
Yeah.
And I'm glad y'all are doing it.
Well, you can say it's a good idea when you have, just talking to you this morning and now you don't even hesitate for a minute. Everything I asked you, you know the answer. You're coming. I can feel that you know what you're talking about. You have the background. You have the years of experience. Obviously, you said the draft years. You have the investment there.
Yep.
That makes a big impression. It's
Yes,
a big deal
it does.
when you live it.
Yeah, I'm the kind of person that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it well, or I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I've been that way since I was a kid. And while it does add stress to my life, it's never been something that I've regretted ever thinking that mindset.
Yeah.
We're going to get good at this because this is what we're going to do. And here we are.
Good.
So we are the industry leader in this field. And we're proud of that.
I like that. Take real estate. I have a buyer. We're going to get into, he's thinking about purchasing the land. I need a real estate scenario that we can talk to with this buyer.
So with respect to ranch real estate and ranch buyers and ranch agents, knowing and educating yourself a little bit about this industry can pay off in a big way. Let's take an average ranch buyer scenario. You have a buyer, he wants a ranch. Again, the hangup is I've got to spend this money, and why not get a ranch? And I'm going to end up subsidizing it, but oh well, my family's going to love it.
Yeah.
Let's not think that way. So if you have a buyer, you educate them about the exotic business in Texas. So they buy the ranch, they get a business plan in place. They have a segregation audit done. Commercial realtors, this is everyday business because you're buying it to run a business on. Well, now all your high fence, all your feeders, barns, water line, water troughs, it's all becomes a deduction.
Nice.
So you've already recouped X amount of dollars out of the purchase of a ranch that historically has just been a financial draw. So I'll come in, have a meeting, and I educate them about this business. So you can get that upfront tax savings. And if you do it right, you do it at the end of the year. Next year, you buy your animals so you don't max out your deductions.
Okay.
And we can run a business on your ranch with those animals, and I'll manage it. And I'm the consultant.
Yeah.
My guys are the consultants.
It's funny because in the past, or still in the real estate role that I'm in and selling land, you get a buyer that either has money they want to pay taxes on, they want to put it in land, or they've sold and they want to do a 1031 exchange, and they're only thinking about this
That's
money
right.
right here.
That's right.
And they're going to buy that land. And this morning I was like blown away because I was like, it doesn't just stop. Like
No.
there's the production of them, the raising, the offspring, and it doesn't stop in year one. It's so many years worth of
Correct.
and so to me, you have this business plan in place, and it's not a 1 year business plan. It's a 4 or 5 year.
Well, my financial projections cover the first 6 years, but like a female giraffe will live to be 20. Yeah, that's 15 years of breeding potential right there, and there's nothing cooler than owning a giraffe.
Yeah.
And well, there is. It's when you own a bull and a female, and they keep having babies, and the female babies, you're selling for a couple $100,000 a piece. Yeah. And that is very exciting.
It is exciting, and it's cool.
Yeah.
I fed a little baby giraffe this morning.
Yeah, the bottle baby.
It was the craziest thing. I've bottle fed a lot of calves and a lot of sheep and goats, and that was so cool. She was beautiful.
There's nothing cooler. There's nothing cuter than a baby giraffe.
Yeah, she had the
little
things on her little hair.
Sure. Yeah, little tufts of hair.
And this morning I got here, and there's all these fellas out feeding, and it didn't hit me until just now, but there's a lot of job creation from this too. I mean, you can, I guess, have as many animals as you want and staff it as much as you want, but that's kind of cool to have some job creation based on this too, because when you're out in rural areas of the state, it's hard to employ people. And so to have job creation is great too. It's another way to, I think of my family growing up in Lolo, El Dorado with 1,200 population. And when oil and gas isn't always, making
that's right.
Barrels are low, you want to make sure you're keeping your employees.
You need to have a backup plan. You need to have a backup plan. So that's a good point. Wildlife Partners, between myself and Wildlife Partners, we employ close to 70 people across 4 ranches. So you're talking 15, 16, whatever, 18 people per ranch. And all these ranches are in rural areas. Mm-hmm. And a big part of what we do is ranch staff education. We'll come out and give classes to these guys on, hey, here's best management practices, for your oryx, for your sable, for if you have capes or just whatever you've got. Okay. So some of these animals are susceptible to predators. So I'll say, guys, does anybody know how to trap? Because these coyotes are going to eat you out of house and home. Mm-hmm. We need to be proactive in our measures to keep these animals happy, healthy, and breeding, because that's the business. Producing offspring, lowering tax burdens, cash flow in the ranches, everybody's happy, and it's a very good model, and it works.
Well, this has been incredible this morning. I feel so lucky to be out here. I'm so blessed to get to know you guys, and now I feel just a little bit smarter today. I feel like I can help my buyers and sellers and plug in. I always tell people I don't know everything, but I want to know the people that do. And so I like to be a catalyst and plug, the right folks together. So I feel like I can do that for friends and clients.
Sure.
Well, the last thing I always like to wrap up with, it's not all business. Mm-hmm. We live in the hill country. It's beautiful. There's a reason we live here. Yeah. So he's always asked my guests, and I'll have to get Morgan back one day and ask him the same questions. But why do you live here? Why do you love the hill country? What brought you here? You said you were in West Texas for a while.
Well, yeah. So I grew up in the hill country. I was born in Brady, lived in Menard. My dad was a state trooper when I was a kid. Yeah. He got moved to Kerrville. We moved there. I went to school in Center Point, and I went off to the military and worked overseas for years. And I did work in the oil and gas industry for 10 years, and I stayed in West Texas a lot. But this is just home. Mm-hmm. So this is where my family is. My brother lives here. He's a manager for Wildlife Partners, and this is where I wanted to be. And
family affair, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it really is. It really is. So this is where I ended up, and I've never regretted it.
Well, man, Joe, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it.
Yep, you're welcome.
A good day, and I hope to get to come out again.
You can anytime. Just let me know.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks for listening to Everything Real in Fredericksburg. Get more information about the Fredericksburg area and contact Leanne at labaileyrealestate.com.